Well, hi. I'm Di. I'm from Australia. I work at the University of Newcastle and at BBI, the Australian Institute of Theological Education. So I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which I work and live, the Darug people of Sydney, the Awabakal people of Newcastle, and the Biripi people of the Manning Valley, which is where my home is. This is problematic. Do you like flowers? I love flowers. I was just in the supermarket earlier on, just in the entranceway, and it is like a florist. It is like being in Europe and there are just flowers everywhere. I am so appreciative of the flowers in the supermarket. I was given an enormous bunch of sunflowers last year to celebrate an occasion, and it just made me so happy. I love them. I also loved it when I was walking the Camino. I love it when this thing works. When I was walking the Camino in Europe, how about you click it for me, huh? Can someone click it? There we go. And I was struggling up this hill because I'm not much of a walker, not like probably most of you are. I arrived finally, completely out of breath, needing to go to the loo in a terrible hurry, just exhausted, needing water, and there was this amazing field of flowers, just like this. Iris Murdoch said that people from a planet without flowers would think we must be mad with joy. And I have to say, that's actually how I feel a lot of the time when I see flowers. We give flowers for occasions of joy, of celebration, all the important times in our life, right? But we also give them in sadness. They mark the occasions of grief and of illness, yeah? And apparently we've been doing this for a long time. People, pre-humans, even before we were Homo sapiens, we were burying our dead with flowers. Flowers and grief and death and ritual have gone together for as long as we have. And I think this speaks to a couple of things. I think this reminds us that this knowledge of the transcendent and the mystery, that there's something else going on out there, there's more than what we see. I think this is something really essential about who we are. I also think that it speaks to our long connection with nature. That nature has always had something really special in our hearts. So that's the sort of thing that I'd like to talk about tonight. Thanks. When we look at the stars, when we look at our pets, when we look at the flowers, we're just in awe, right? We see a sunset and we know that there's something else going on. There's more than just what we see. This is all of us. This is not just people who are particularly religious. This is everybody. Everybody gets the awe. And I think for us it's a glimpse into the creativity and the amazing awesomeness of God. This whole idea that we can know something about God through the world around us, through the beauty and the magic and the mathematical precision, this is what's being called natural theology. Okay? When we start to put words around that and define that and talk about that as the Word come to us through Christ, we're talking about special revelation of God. And I have to say that theology is kind of focused on this special revelation for a long time. And it seems to me that we've lost our connection to this natural theology that's really been our vibe for most of our history, right? Just up until these last 2,000 years. So I'm really interested in recapturing some of that. And we are living in the most amazing age, right? When science is just disclosing all this magic to us about how awesome God is. And the more we understand scientifically, the more it's teaching us theologically about the type of God that we happen to be here with. So, how come things have gone wobbly? What's been going on? Why are we facing the problem of climate change? Why have we entered the Anthropocene, the age of humans, the first geological era that's been of our doing, that we're responsible for? Well, with you tonight, let's try and unpick some of the problems, hey? Now, I am totally aware that I have come to New Zealand, to one of the most beautiful and purest countries on the planet, and I'm speaking to a group of people who absolutely, adore the natural world around you. But I think together, there's some things that we can think about unpicking some of the poorer theologies that haven't been helpful to us in understanding our relationship to the earth. And some of it goes back to the creation stories, so right at the beginning. For a long time, particularly since the Enlightenment, we've been thinking about this pyramid. We've been thinking about God creating over 5.5 days, just practicing, just doing a bit here, just, light and dark, sea and land, getting things kind of ready for the big day when the humans are created. And that was the end because that was the best thing, and then God rested. It's as if God created a hierarchy with humans at the top. And if you think like that, it's easy to think about the humans being separate from everything else because we're the best, we're the last ones, we're at the top of the tree. If you think like that, it's kind of easy then to think that it's okay to misuse the others, that it's okay to use the land the way you want to use the land, and it's okay to clear the forests, that it's okay to grow crops in monocultures so that they're not interacting with other species. We think that because of this dodgy theology that underpins it. It doesn't come out of nowhere. We think that also because in Genesis, God says, go have dominion over the other animals. And we go, oh, okay then. All right, it's free for all. We're at the top of the tree. Our dominion means that we can pollute the air, we can do whatever we like because we're at the top of the pyramid. But that's not dominion. Everywhere else in the Bible where it talks about dominion, it's of a king caring for the people he's responsible for, doing the right thing for them, in a lot of cases sacrificing for the sake of those he has dominion over. The ultimate example we have of dominion is Christ's dominion, who doesn't only do the right thing, but self-sacrifices on behalf of those he has dominion over. That's dominion. What we've been doing to the planet isn't dominion, that's domination. A second thing we learn about from the creation story is that there's a second tree in the garden. This tree is at the center of the garden, and all life revolves around the tree in the center. This is the tree of life. And if we think about that tree Christologically through a frame of where we are in history now, looking back to that story, we can understand that tree of life as representing Christ, because Christ is the life that is in and through all things. The people in the garden, all of the other animals, all of the others, seen and unseen, are all revolving around this central tree in the garden. But of course, if it's a tree of life, it's also a tree of sacrifice. It's also the tree on which Christ gave the ultimate sacrifice for the purpose of restoring relationships. So this tree isn't a tree that we pick the fruit of. This is the tree that gives life and provides an opportunity for us to restore relationships with each other. That's important because that's where we get our theology of how we understand our relationship with creation. Imagine you're in Japan and you go to the doctor. And the doctor says, I prescribe for you a daily walk in the forest. Nice, huh? That happens. It's called Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing. And it's not just for getting physical exercise or breathing some nice air, being out in the bush maybe with your friends. It has those benefits, of course, but Shinrin-yoku has demonstrated to us scientifically that when we're in a forest environment which is rich with smells and rich with biodiversity, it changes our bodies. It changes who we are once we're interrelating with the other species. So even seeing the colours blue and green changes your brain waves. That alone changes the way you think. When you're in the forest, you're breathing in all sorts of particulate matter. There are all sorts of microbes swimming around the air because it's thick, right? The air is thick in the forest. Those microbes enter into us. They enter into us as we breathe them in, and through our lungs, they enter our bloodstream. They enter into our gut, through our mouth, into our bellies, and through those ways, they speak to our brains through our vagus nerve. They speak to our brains, they change the way we think. They change the way we feel. They interrupt the way our hormones are expressed, and they help us relieve our stress. They promote our immunity. They do all sorts of things just from walking in the forest. Even as you sit there, you are a community. You are already a community of species. In fact, we are just like big, complicated donuts with a hole down the middle. And our whole surface isn't covered in sugar. It's covered in our family of microbes, your own microbiome. Your garden is different to your garden. We're all different. We're all carrying this community of species, particularly in our guts, but lining us and coating us. And these are the species that keep us alive. We're already a community of species. You think you own your body, but those bugs, they think they own your body too. They don't even know about you the way you think you know about you. But without our family of species living in us and among us, we wouldn't be alive. And without them interacting with us, helping us to digest and changing our immunity and changing our brainwaves, you wouldn't be thinking the way you're thinking. It's not a matter of I think, therefore I am. It's more like I think and feel the way I do because I am a community. We're designed to be in community. When you have your hands in the dirt, when you're gardening, I mean, it feels great, right? What is that about just getting the dirt under your fingernails? You know, when you do that, you're promoting your own garden of species in yourself. This is why gardening is actually now being prescribed to support our mental health, right? We know it feels good to garden and to grow and create, but actually it's interacting with our whole microbiome. We love it, don't we, when we see species interacting? I mean, who doesn't love a picture like this? Why are cats so popular on the internet? Why do we love it? I was at the zoo one time in Dubbo in New South Wales, and there was a rhinoceros, and on the back of a rhinoceros was a goat standing on the back of the rhino in order to reach the leaves on this tree. It was awesome. Why do we respond to that? And why don't we respond to ourselves in the same way? Does your dog think about, oh, you're so cute when you look after me like this? Do my budgies think that when I feed them? They think, oh, that's so nice. That lady is so nice. We need to have it in our minds that God is thinking about us in a family of species. And we're just as cute to the others as they are to us. We're designed to be in community, and we know this scientifically, ecologically. None of us survive without the rest of us being here. And in this era of climate change and weather weirding and things going awry, as we lose our biodiversity, we actually risk our own survival on the planet. So when we're thinking about doing the right thing, we need more to underpin that, don't we, than, well, what should I be doing in this era? It's not really just enough to care for the refugees if you're in a country that actually cares for refugees and not lock them up. Bonhoeffer talks about how important it is to care for the wounds of the victims. That's an important thing, it's an act of grace, but it's not enough. Bonhoeffer, who was a German theologian in the war, talked about not only binding the wounds of the victims, but actually taking hold of the steering wheel and changing things. That's good, but it's not enough as Christians unless we've got a theology to underpin that. Okay? I'm not a motivational speaker, I'm a theologian. And I guess as Christians, if we can think through what is it within our faith that gives us the tools to go, okay, I need to take hold of that steering wheel and change the way my government is operating, my community is operating, the way my family is responding to the needs of the earth, well, maybe that's what I need to do. As we think about the Anthropocene and we think about the loss of other species, for me, that takes me right back to that garden story. There's 2 trees in the garden. There's this tree of original sin, which to me sounds more like the problem of domination, of trying to exert power over another. Is it another person? Is it another species? Is it an entire animal kingdom? Is it the inanimate portions of earth? Is it the rivers, the landscapes? Is it the beach? As we turn our backs on domination, I think we are able then to think about those restored relationships, which the second tree provides for us. Christ's tree enables us to enter into those new relationships which have been established for us in the creation story. Bonhoeffer was also, I think, really aware of this. I mean, the word ecology wasn't even invented, right, when Bonhoeffer was writing, but the relationship that we have the potential for through the blood of Jesus. This quote, "The crown, a wreath of sharp thorns, is pressed on his forehead. The first drops of blood fall on the earth upon which he, the love of God, walked. The earth drinks the blood of its Creator's beloved Son, who loved it as no one had loved it before." Christ didn't come just for the humans. Christ came to restore order, to restore relationships, and to invite us into that process of restoring relationships. Climate change is a theological issue. It's not only an ethical issue, it's an issue for people of faith, but we have a way forward through that. And that's all I'd like to say tonight. Thanks.